Jennifer of Celtic Knot Crochet, and today in this video I'll be showing you how to make the Celtic Blanket Square. This is part of the 2023 Moogly Crochet Along. This square requires some knowledge of a wide variety of basic crochet stitches. So you'll need to know slip stitch, chain, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, and treble crochet. I will explain all the stitches you need in order to make the pieces of the knot in the center. I'll provide for you a diagram, free diagram that you can download at my blog at celticknotcrochet.com. We'll use that diagram to weave the pieces into this knot, and then I'll show you how to edge the knot to create the square shape. This square is 12 inches by 12 inches, but I give you some tips on how you can adjust the size depending on your tension and the yarn you use. I'll also share with you all the supplies you need and show you what kind of things will help you weave this knot. So don't forget to click on subscribe and give us a thumbs up. I look forward to seeing all the different colors that you make. Let's get started. I am rating the square as easy for the crochet stitches and intermediate for the Celtic knot weaving. If you have made some of my Celtic knot projects or Celtic knot squares before, you should be fine with making this one. If you haven't, I highly recommend trying one of the other simpler squares, the Celtic knot square. There's a tutorial for that. Or one of my other Celtic knot simple projects that are on my blog at celticknotcrochet.com. Then you can come back and try this one with this step-by-step video tutorial. This square looks more complicated than it actually is. In order to make this square, you will be making 4 crocheted cords, but they are all the same exact cord, but you weave them in different directions and it results in this Celtic knot. So to show you what it would look like with different colors, you can see that there are 4 different cords, but they all look the same when you finish them, and they all work together in a similar manner to make this Celtic knot square. Let's go over the supplies you'll need for the Celtic Blanket Square. These are the crochet supplies, and later when we start weaving the Celtic knot, I'll explain those supplies. If you don't need help with the crochet section, you can skip in the chapters down below the description of this video, and you'll see where to start watching for help with weaving the Celtic knot. So I used Red Heart with Love yarn. Thank you to Red Heart for providing this yarn. I used 3 colors. This is aubergine or dark purple, and then lilac or light purple, and then this pretty off-white, which they call eggshell. You only need 1 skein of each color to complete this square. It does not use a lot of yarn. You'll also need a size J crochet hook and some kind of yarn needle or tapestry needle. And then you'll want 4 stitch markers in one color and 4 stitch markers in another color. This will help you find your stitches when we work on the cords and on the edging. So make sure that you have 4 of one color and 4 of another. And all the supplies are listed in the description below with links of where to purchase them. Our first step in making the Celtic Blanket Square is to crochet 4 cords. So I'm going to talk you through how to do 1 cord, and then you'll make 3 more just like it. So you'll want to put your slip knot on your hook and chain 72. So you'll have a nice long chain, and remember you'll need your stitch markers to work on the cord. You'll need 8 of one color and 4 of another. Now we're mainly going to work in the half double crochet stitch, and for the cord we're going to work in 2 rows. So if you see here on this completed cord, we're actually going to work along one side of the chain to create this side, and then we'll work back along the other side of the chain to create side 2, and it will create this nice thickness here. So you're going to skip the first 2 chains, 1, 2, and you're going to work a half double crochet in the 3rd chain from your hook. And you'll also want to work underneath 2 loops of the chain. So if you look closely at each chain, there are 3 loops, 1, 2, and 3. And we want to work under the top 2, like so. So yarn over, put your hook into the 3rd chain from the hook, under those top 2 loops, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. And you're going to work in 3 more of the chains with the half double crochet. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to work 2 half double crochets in the next stitch. So again, working under both of those loops, and then we're going to do another one in that same stitch. And before we move on, we're going to mark each of those with a stitch marker. Color A of the stitch marker. Now, if you don't have different colored stitch markers, you could mark these all with one color stitch marker, and then when we move on to doing the different color, you can mark them maybe with a paper clip or something that's different than the stitch marker, so it's easy for you to know which one is which. Next, we're going to do half double crochets again in the next 4 stitches. Three and 4, and now we're going to work 2 half double crochets again. This is what's going to create a nice curve in the cord, and this time we're going to take color B of the stitch markers. So I'm using hot pink here, and we're marking those 2 stitches. This will make it easier when we go to do our edging. We won't have to count, we just head for the stitch markers. Now we're going to do a half double crochet in each of the next 4 chains again. And then we're going to do 2 half double crochets in the next chain. 1, 2, and we're going to mark them with color A again of our stitch markers. So far you should have a cord that looks like this. And as we work on the cord, you'll see it curving more and more, but those increases will help it to curve in the different special spots on the design. Now we're going to work in each of the next 4 chains again. Still half double crochet. So you have 4, then an increase, 4, then an increase, 4, increase, 4. And that will be on the beginning and near the end of the cord. Now we're going to half double crochet in each of the next 20 chains. So your cord will have quite a bit of stitches since your last two marked with the stitch markers. Now we're going to repeat what we did on the other side with the increases. So we're going to do an increase, 2 half doubles in this chain, and then a half double in each of the next 4, and we're going to do that 3 times. So 2 half doubles in the same chain to create the curve with our color A stitch markers. I'm going to mark each one. Then half double in the next 4. Then 2 half doubles in the next one. And then mark it with the color B stitch markers. Then half double crochet in each of the next 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 more increase, 2 half doubles in the next chain. And then we're going to mark those with color A stitch marker. You might want to just mark both of them with 1 stitch marker, it's up to you. And then you should have a short amount left, and there should be 20 stitches left, chains left here to make a half double crochet in each one. Again, remember how important it is. See those three loops on the chain, and we're going to go under the top 2. So we have 2 loops on our hook. Just make sure you yarn over first. This will make the cord nice and tight when you're looking at the center of it. So here we have side 1 of the cord, and we have 6 marked stitches on that end and 6 marked stitches here. And now we're going to work on the other side of the chain. So we're going to work down along the bottom of what we just created. So we're going to chain 1 and put a slip stitch right into the end of the cord. See how this is the side that I just worked on? Now I'm going to turn it around, flip it, so now I can work along the bottom of the chain. And there's that 1 loop that we didn't use of the chain right along here. I'm going to put my hook in that first chain and slip stitch. Did you see that? I'll show you that again. So I'm going to do a slip stitch, put my hook in, yarn over, pull through the stitch and through the loop on my hook. I'm going to chain 2, and now I'm going to work half double crochet in this first stitch. And that, by working on the top of the chain and the bottom, I have this nice thick cord or rectangle. Now I'm going to half double crochet in each of the next 18 stitches. So I've completed 18 half double crochets after that first one, and I'm coming up here, you see where my increases were, and I'm working on the other side of them. So I'm going to work a decrease to help accentuate the curve. So I'm going to do a half double crochet 2 together in the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to yarn over, put my hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on my hook, Then I'm going to yarn over, put my hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now I have 5 loops on my hook. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 5. And that's called half double crochet 2 together. Then I'm going to work a half double crochet in each of the next 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to do a half double crochet 2 together again. Yarn over, hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, 5 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 5. Then I'm going to do a half double in each of the next 3 again. 1, 2, 3, and then 1 more half double crochet 2 together. Five loops on your hook, pull through all 3. So that helps the curve get more curvy because we added stitches on top, but we're taking away stitches underneath where we need the bend to be accentuated. Now I'm going to half double crochet in the next 23 stitches. And because we went through those 2 stitches on side 1, I have just that 1 loop of the chain left, and it's nice and snug. So as you look at my cord, there aren't a lot of big holes. Sometimes you get a lot of holes in your crochet work when you work into the chain. So let's see, where do we leave off? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 22, 23. And that brings me right on the other side of my last batch of increases. So I'm going to do another half double crochet 2 together. Yarn over, put my hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 5 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 5. Then half double crochet in 3, 1, 2, 3, half double crochet 2 together, half double crochet in the next 3, 1, 2, 3, and then my last decrease, half double crochet 2 together, and then I'm going to half double crochet in the last 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and if you'd like, right here, this is where when we first started the project, this is those first 2 chains that were at the very beginning of our cord. If you want, you can add 1 more half double crochet in there. You don't have to. And there we go. That's side 1 and side 2 of our cord. And so your cord will naturally now start bending into this shape. So the next thing we're going to do is add the edging with a contrasting or coordinating color. You'll want to fasten off. You can leave about 6 to 8 inches. We'll use these yarn tails to help sew the project together. So we weave in the ends and sew it together at the same time. And I'm going to use white because it's easy to see here with the video. And I'm going to put my slip knot on my hook. And I'm going to start at the first end, which again, the beginning end of the cord is where we had the increases real close to the end. If you look here, these increases are kind of in the middle of the cord. So I want to go to the end that has the increases near the beginning, and I'm going to join with a single crochet, and I'm going to work in the back loop only. So again, here you can see the tops of all our stitches. Normally we would go under both of them like this, under both, but I'm going to work into this back loop only right here. So the back loop of each stitch. And I'm going to join with a single crochet. So I'm going to insert my hook into that back loop, and I already have my slip knot on my hook. Yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And I'm going to do a single crochet in each stitch on side 1, except when I get to my stitch marker stitches. So anytime I get to color A stitch markers, I'm going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch. 1, 2, next one, 1, 2. Then I work my way along. And when I come to the color B stitch markers, I'm going to do single crochet and another one in the first one, but then I'm going to add a chain 1. And then in the next stitch marker stitch, I'm going to do 2 single crochets again. So the only difference, and that's why you have these in a different color, is to remind you that you need to put a chain 1 in between the 2 single, 2 single. Then I work across, working in that back loop the whole time. And here I've gotten to my 2 marked stitches. So this is color A of the stitch markers, so I'm just going to do 2 single crochets in that one and 2 single crochets in this one. And I'll continue along the cord doing that same 2, 2, then 2, chain 1, 2, 2, 2 until I get to the end. And then I'll show you what to do on the second side of the cord. I'm coming up here on the end of side 1 of the cord with my edging. And here I did my second set of stitch markers with the 2, 2, 2, chain 1, 2, 2, 2. And now, to prevent from having to weave in too many yarn tails, I'm going to chain 1 and work slip stitches across this short end of the cord. And that helps me travel over to the other side. Then I'm going to chain 1, and now on this side I'm going to put a single crochet in every stitch, again working in that back loop. Making them nice and even and clean across. And I'll fasten off when I get to the end of side 2 of the cord. Here I'm coming to the end of the edging along side 2. And your cord should look like this now. So you could see that by putting the chain 1 here, it gave a little bit of a point to the center increase on either end. And this is where we're going to join it in the knot. And let me just tell you that if you're left-handed, your cord would come out looking like this. Now it would have the right side facing, but your opening would be on the opposite side, as a right-hander. So once you've completed the cord, of course you can remove all the stitch markers, and you'll have to make 4, and I have 4 made right here. And I made mine for this demonstration in 4 different colors of the With Love yarn so that you can see it woven into the Celtic knot easier. Okay, so let's talk about the weaving supplies and start weaving the Celtic knot. Now that we're ready to weave the 4 cords you've crocheted, let's go over the supplies you'll need to do the weaving. First, you'll have to print out the free Celtic knot diagram that you can find on my blog at CelticKnotCrochet.com. It comes in 2 pages, page 1 and page 2. You'll want to print those out, and this will be full actual size of the knot. Then you'll also want to have the knot picture as a reference. Now, I printed mine out in a smaller size. You can just use the image from my blog on your phone. Something where you have a reference to look over to while you're weaving the knot. I found it helps a lot. Then you'll need a piece of cork board about 12 by 12 inches, and I like to put another piece of styrofoam under it, but you don't have to do that. And you'll want some straight sewing pins, and you'll need a jumbo tapestry needle so we can put the whole knot together. So the first thing you'll have to do is you'll have to assemble the knot because it's bigger than an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So if you look here, the directions say to cut off white edge of paper along the left side of this page. So this is page 2, and you're going to cut off this small edge right here. You can fold it over if you want, but you can also just cut it very easy. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then, according to the directions, tape page 2 to page 1 so pattern of Celtic knot matches. And that page 2 will overlap page 1 just by a little bit. So you could see here how they're, if I push them together like so, see how they line up. Make sure the bottom lines up and the top. So all the lines are straight. And just using a little bit of tape, I tape them together. And now you have the Celtic knot in its actual size, which is about 10 by 10 inches. Now, before we start to weave, it's always good to take a look at the knot and trace some of the path with your fingers. Now, this is done in 4 different colors. You might want to do that for your square, or like mine, you might want to have yours all in purple. And if it is one color, it does make it look a lot more complicated. So when you have it in the different colors, you can see how the knot is put together, and it loses a little bit of its mystery. But you decide. So you're going to put one cord, cord number 1 is going to be laid down along this path, like here. And see these dotted lines with a solid line? That's where the cord ends are going to meet up. And then you're going to do another one around like this, and then the third one like this, and the fourth one going this way. So all 4 cords are the same exact measurements and the same stitches, but if you rotate them in different ways, you can create this knot by weaving it together. So let's start that. My crocheted cords match my colored diagram. Now this here on the video looks black, but it's actually purple. And I have the right side facing of my cord, and I'm going to line it up and put it on path number 1. So I like to pin the very beginning of the cord. I'm going to pin in line with that straight line across. And the first cord is the easiest one because there's nothing else around it that we have to weave. So I just have it laying along that purple path on the diagram. So now number 2, if we look and peek, number 2 is the light purple, and it's going to go around this way. So now we start working around the darker purple. So this is where my cord is going to begin and end, and this is that short end. Remember the beginning where we had all the increases. So I want to make sure that my short end lines up with here. This is the line where I'm going to line it up to start the cord. And now this is going to go underneath. We hide that end under the other cord. Now I'm going to peek at the diagram, and I see that I need to go under here and under again on this section. So I take the end, go under, under, I think you can add as many pins as you like to keep your cords in place. It's kind of like giving you an extra set of hands. And then I follow the light purple cord. And I peek at the diagram and I see I'm going to go under the dark purple again. And under, because I have to meet up with where I began. So again, cord number 2, not too complicated. And I like to pin the end right through like that. So when I weave the other cords, nothing comes apart on me. So I'm going to pin these crossings too, like that. So far, this is what I have, cord 1 and cord 2. Now cord 3 is the green. And if I look, this is where the green and the short end of the green is going to start. So here's my green cord. Here's my short end, the beginning, where I had the increases right away. And I'll peel this back and put those right up there with that line, like so. Now it's going to start getting a little trickier. So I always can peel back the layers and look at my diagram. So I'm going to want to go around with the green and follow the green path. So I'll just take it one step at a time. I'm going to go over. See how I can see the green? It's going over this purple. Then it's going to go under this purple. Then here it is over, then under. And it looks like it's going to go under again up here. So over, under the light purple, and under the light purple again. See how it's going under that. And then as I look here, it's going to go See that? It's going under the purple. And we match up the point here with this little point right there on the diagram. Pin it in place. And now I continue to follow the green. It's going to go under the purple. And then I know, here's where my green started. I know it's got to go under here because it has to meet up with where we began. But we hide all these little ends. Now, I'm noticing that this right here was not the center point. So you want to make sure that your center point is the one that lines up with this outer point. So now I have my center point, I have the other increase there, and then I work my way down. I can peek behind here and join those two ends like so. And there I have my third cord woven. So this is what yours should look like. Now, if you want, you can weave all these ends in if they bother you and get in your way, but I like to keep them on because then I weave them in as I sew my project together. So now I want to work the fourth cord. This is where it would come in handy to use a small printout of the completed knot. So here's my small printout, and I can see how the last cord is going to be woven. So if I lay it down here with the short end and the increases, I see that I'm going to have to go over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. So it's a nice alternating pattern. Every pass is going to alternate because this is the last cord. So here, where's my short end? Here's my short end, see? And here's the first increase, the slight point, and the second increase. So I'm going to lay that down, peek under the green. This is where the 4 would start, and lay it down. Putting the pin in to keep my place, and I'm going to turn my work a little so it's easier to see. And now I'm going to do that alternating pattern, starting with over, under, over, under, over, under. Let's see how we do just across that much. So over, under. Now my end somehow was not pinned under there, so I just want to make sure that I've pinned both ends. All right. So over, under, over. Next one. Don't skip one. Under, then over the dark purple, and then under the light purple. Okay? And then we want to make sure that we have our 3 increases coming out here on the end. First increase, the chain 1 increase, and the 3rd increase. And we want to line the chain 1 with the point on the diagram. See, so you have those 2 points near each other, like so. And now remember, it's alternating, so we just went under. So now for our last pass of the knot, we're going to go over, under, over, and then end with an under right where we began. So I'll remove these pins because they're in my way, and then place them back for the over, then under right here, and over the purple and back under where we began. And there you have it. So you can see, here is cord 1, the dark purple, cord 2, the light purple, cord 3, the green, and cord 4, the gray. And then what I like to do is just make sure that everything is even. So you might have to adjust a few areas of your project, like so, where the cord might be squished up a little bit. And there we go. That's how you weave this knot for the Celtic Blanket Square. So the next thing you'll want to do is you'll want to remove the pins and put them across like so. So this helps hold your project in place. And you only need to do it really where it started, like this. So in all those places where your cord ends, the 4 spots where you have the cord end, I would just do that. Because if you wove it correctly with the correct over-under weave, you'll actually discover that all those overs and unders keep your project nice and together. So you can remove it from your weaving board, and then I would turn it over, and using the yarn tails and your yarn needle, you'll want to, now this time the needle is in the way, the pin is in the way. So here are my 2 ends of cord number 2. See the 2 ends here, and I'm going to whip stitch them together. Now this is a very tightly woven knot. There aren't many gaps in it, but I do recommend that you can also use your yarn tails to sew some of the cords to each other like this. So I'm picking up a few loops on the back of one cord and going through the cord underneath, and that'll just make it more secure. Now you can do that all the way around if you'd like, or just in a few spots. Before you remove your knot from the diagram, this is what I recommend to help you with the edging part of the project. I recommend taking a stitch marker and putting it here at the center bottom indent here of the knot. And if you use the small printable that is included with the instructions of the blanket square diagram, you can see here that in addition to the different cords and their numbers, you can also see that each of these outside loops has a name. So I start here with A and we go around to H. And where this black dot is where you're going to start edging the knot. So because your cords might be all the same color, it will be hard for you to tell. So before you remove it from your diagram, just make sure you put a stitch marker here so you know that is where you're going to start. In fact, if you want to just put the stitch marker a little bit higher, then you'll always have a reference point while you work on the edging. And you know this is where we're going to start, and each round will end right here, and you'll continue working around for the 5 edging rounds. Another tip for you as far as making the edging. I highly recommend that you sew all the ends, the cord ends together like you can see here. But that is it. That way, when you're working the edging, you can still move these outside loops if you need to, because I'll show you how to make sure you have the right number of stitches from this indent to this indent and so forth. And by having this not sewn together yet, it will help you. So to begin the edging, I'm going to work in this indent that I marked with a stitch marker between loop A and loop H. And I'm going to work in the back loop only, and I want to make sure that I'm going to go through a stitch on this loop and a stitch on this loop. So every time I work in the indent, I want to make sure I go through the one closest to me and the one in the back. So I'm going to join with a double crochet. So I yarn over, put my hook through the back loop of that bottom stitch in the front loop, and then the back loop of the other cord. Yarn over, pull through. I have 3 loops on my hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And I'm going to do 3 more double crochets in that same place. 1, 2, and 3. So this fills in that little indent. And now I'm going to work across this loop right here, across A, and I'm going to do 4 more double crochets in this indent. So what you're going to need to do is work 10 single crochets across here. But it can be a little tricky figuring out the numbering. So what I like to do is I look ahead to my next indent, and I look and say, okay, the double crochet would probably come up to here, right? Because it's a tall stitch. I'm going to put a double crochet in here, and it's going to come up to here. So that means that I need to have 10 stitches working back this way. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so that means that as I end this group of 4 double crochets, I'm going to start in that 10th stitch I counted back and work a single crochet in the back loop across for 10. So this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Just like that. And here I am at that next indent. So I'm going to yarn over, put my hook in the back loop of the cord in front, and then my back loop of the cord in the back, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, through 2. And that's my first double, and I'm going to do 3 more double crochets right in there. Okay, and now I'm going to do the same thing all the way around. I'm going to look ahead to my next indent, eyeball where that double crochet is probably going to end here, about 3 stitches up from the point down here, and then count 10 back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So right to here. And this is how, a little tip for you of how you can make sure you get the right amount of stitches across without having to rip it out and recount. So 3. And you can see how by filling in that indent, it's starting to create a square shape. And I'll continue that around for all the indents. Now I'm almost finished with round 1, and the beginning here, I want to make sure that this double crochet, it'll line up with this stitch here, so I'm going to count back 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's where I'm going to start the 10 single crochets after my last 4 double crochets. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 right here, and then I just want to join with a slip stitch in that first double crochet to close up the round. And this is what your square should look like with round 1. So all these little indents now have been filled in. Now before we move on to round 2, we're going to mark every other indent. So every other one of these 4 double crochet groups from the beginning. So this is our first 4 double crochet group. We're going to skip this one and mark the second group. And then we're going to skip the next one and mark the 4th group. Then we're going to skip this one at the top and mark the 6th group. And then we're going to skip this one and mark the last one, the 8th. Okay, so this will help us to find the corners quicker. So we're going to be adding stitches of different heights at these areas to create the corners. So by marking them with a stitch marker, it'll be easier to find those groups of 4 double crochets that you did. Now with the corners marked, we're ready to start round 2 of our edging. So I'm turning my knot around. Now we're going to work in both loops. We're going to chain 1, single crochet in this first stitch, and then we're going to single crochet in each of the next 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now this should put you 1 stitch away from the first corner. So here are our 4 double crochets that we marked as becoming our corner, and then there's 1 single crochet before that. So we're going to work a half double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. 1, 2. Then we're going to work 2 stitches in the next stitch. We're going to do a double crochet and then a treble. Treble is yarn over twice. Put your hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, through 2, through 2. So it's a nice tall stitch. Then you're going to chain 1, and then in the next stitch you're going to do a treble and then a double. And see how that starts creating that corner already. And then we're going to take another stitch marker and mark that chain 1 space to help us find it for our next round. Next we're going to work a double crochet in the next stitch. So there we've just used up all 4 stitches that we marked with the first stitch marker, and we're well on our way to creating a corner. Now we're going to work a double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And then a half double crochet in the stitch after that. Yarn over, hook over, start that again. Yarn over, hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. And now you can see here, because we've just completed the first corner, we need to work our way across to the pink stitch marker and make our next corner. So we're going to do some shorter stitches until we get a certain distance away and then create the next corner. So we're going to single crochet across until we're 3 stitches away from this group of 4 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3. So we're going to go all the way and then stop here. And it's just single crochet, a nice short stitch. Doesn't add too much height. Okay, I'm getting close. Here's my 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'm going to stop there with the single crochets. And now I'm going to do a half double crochet in the next stitch, a double crochet in each of the next 3. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to do a double crochet and then a treble crochet. So this is similar to our other corner. And then a chain 1. And then in the next stitch I'm going to do a treble crochet and then a double. You could see how cramming that all into 2 stitches creates the corner, the beginnings of a corner, and then it's another chain 1 space. So I'm going to mark it with a stitch marker. Now I'm going to double crochet in the next stitch and then half double crochet in the stitch after that. And I have my second corner completed. Now I'm going to work across to my other corner and I'm going to work up all the way single crochets until I'm 1 stitch away. So simple single crochets across. Here I'm getting close to my next corner marked with the stitch marker, and I want to go up to the stitch right before. So I keep working my single crochets and stop 1 before these 4. And now I'm going to do a half double crochet in this stitch and a double crochet in the stitch after that. Then I'm going to work a double crochet in the next stitch plus a treble. Remember, treble is 2 yarn overs. Then I'm going to chain 1, and then in the next stitch I'm going to do a treble and then a double. And there's my next corner, corner number 3. And I'm going to put in a stitch marker into that chain 1 space so I can find it easier. And then I'm going to do a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, oops, 2, 3, and then a half double in the next stitch after that. And now I'm coming on the home stretch. I'm going to work across until I get 3 stitches away from my next corner. And it's going to be single crochet. Now I'm coming up on my last corner here marked with the stitch marker. I want to stop 3 stitches before. 1, 2, 3. So I have 1 more to do. here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets. So I'm going to do a half double crochet in this stitch, and then a double crochet in each of the next 3. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to do the double crochet and the treble, 2 yarn overs, then a chain 1, then the treble, and then the double. And there's my last corner forming. I'm going to mark the chain 1 space with the stitch marker. Then I'm going to do a double crochet in the next stitch and a half double in the stitch after that. And now I have this short distance here back to where I began, where I'm going to work single crochets across. And then I'm going to join with a slip stitch to that first single crochet of my round. And this is what your square should look like so far. So it's still not a great square, but it's getting there. Now before we complete round 3, I wanted to go around and mark 7 stitches away from each corner. And I just want to mark the side that leads up to the corner, not the side that leads away. So again, because I'm right-handed, I go around this way. If I were left-handed, I would be marking on this side of each corner. So you could see here, I just counted from the chain 1 space that I marked with the stitch marker earlier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then this will tell me that I'm going to single crochet across to that stitch. And then I'll follow the stitches in the directions, and then I'll be doing a bunch of single crochets across here to my next green stitch marker, which is again 7 stitches away from the chain 1 space. So that's just an easier way to work these corners without having to count stitches. And if for some reason your single crochet count is off just a little bit, you don't have to worry, because you can still figure out how to do the corner by working back from the chain 1 space. So to begin round 3, I'm going to chain 1 and single crochet in that first stitch, and then I'm going to single crochet in each of the next 9 stitches. And you see how that brings us to that 7th stitch from the next corner chain 1 space. I'm going to remove that stitch marker, and now I'm going to work a half double crochet in the next stitch and a half double crochet in the stitch after that. Then I'm going to do a double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then I'm going to do a treble crochet, so that's 2 yarn overs, into the next 2 stitches. 1, 2, and then in this stitch right here before the chain 1 space, I'm going to do a double crochet. Now I'm at the chain 1, remove that, and I'm going to do 2 double crochets in that chain 1 space, then chain 1, and then 2 double crochets again. 1, 2, and I put that all in that chain 1 space. And then I'm going to pick up that stitch marker and mark the chain 1 again. This helps me with round 4 when we get to it. Now I'm going to work some taller stitches this way, and I want to make sure, see how this treble crochet right here? I don't want to skip over that. That's an important stitch that I want to make sure I work in. So I'm going to do a double crochet in that stitch right there, right after the chain one, and then a double crochet in the next stitch, and a double crochet after that. Then I'm going to do a half double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to work single crochets across to my next stitch marker. And you should have 16. But again, if you're off by a couple, no big deal. So now I'm actually going to do the opposite of what I did around the first corner. So I'm first going to remove my stitch marker, the green one, and I'm going to do 4 half double crochets, 1 in each of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'm going to work 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Now that brings me to the next corner, the next chain 1 space, and I'm going to do 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets again, all in that chain 1 space. Now I'm going to work down this other side, and I don't want to forget about that treble crochet right there. I'm going to do a double crochet in there, then a treble crochet in the next stitch, and the stitch after that. Then I'm going to do a double crochet now in each of the next 2 stitches. And then I'm going to do a half double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And that completes corner number 2. And before I get too far away, let's mark that chain 1 space so we can find it quickly next round. So if you noticed, we did a certain type of stitches here, then we did the 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet in the chain 1 space. Then we did a different set of stitches on this side of the corner. Then I repeated these stitches, I repeated them here, and then these stitches here were the same ones that I put here. If that's a little confusing, don't worry. Remember, you can find the written pattern on my blog at CelticKnotCrochet.com. And now we're going to work single crochets across to our next stitch marker. Oh, here I'm 7 stitches away from the chain 1 at the corner, and I'm going to work half double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, then 2 double crochets, in 1 in each of the next 2, 1, 2, then 2 trebles, which is 2 yarn overs, and then 1 more double right here in the last stitch before the chain 1. Then at the chain 1, take out my stitch marker and do 2 doubles, chain 1, and 2 doubles again. And before I go too far, mark that chain 1 place with my stitch marker. And now I'm going to work across this section here, and I don't want to miss out on working in that first stitch there. So now I'm going to work 3 double crochets, 1 in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Then 4 half doubles, 1 in each of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm ready to do single crochets across to my last stitch marker for our 4th corner. Now I remove my last green stitch marker, and I'm again 7 stitches away from the next chain 1 space, and I'm going to half double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'm going to do a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm at my last chain 1 space at the corner. Remove the stitch marker and do 2 double crochets. 1, 2, then chain 1, then 2 more double crochets. 1, 2, and then before I move on, put my stitch marker there in the chain 1 space. And now I'm ready to work across this last section here before we finish round 3. Again, we don't want to miss working in this stitch right here. So I'm going to double crochet in this next stitch. Then I'm going to work 2 trebles, 1 in each of the next stitches here. 1, and then 2, then 2 double crochets, 1 in each of the next 2 stitches. 1, 2, and then 2 half doubles. 1, 2. And there's my last corner completed. And now I'm going to work single crochets across to where we began the round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm going to put my hook into that first stitch, yarn over, pull through everything, and there is round 3 of the edging completed. Back it up for you so you can see. So you can see now it really starting to look like a square. So we have just 2 more rounds, and I like to change color when we get to the next 2 rounds. Also, if you want to check your work, you should have 34 stitches along each side between the chain 1 spaces. So from chain 1, this stitch right next to the chain 1, all the way across to the stitch next to the next chain 1 is 34. 34 stitches, and that should be true on all sides. So I'm going to cut the eggshell or the off-white color, and I'm going to join in that same place with a half double crochet. Now you want your square to be a total of 12 inches by 12 inches. So what you'll want to do at this point is measure your square and see how much more you need. I don't need much more. Mine is almost 12. So I'm going to do half double for the next round and then a slip stitch for the last round, and I'll be right at the 12-inch mark. But if your tension is a little tighter than mine, your square might be a little smaller, so you'll probably want to just do a higher stitch. So you could choose any stitch to go around the outside edge. You just have to adjust for your size of crochet stitches. So maybe yours is already at 12 inches and you just want to maybe put a slip stitch around this so it finishes off nicely. It's up to you. So for rounds 4 and 5, you select the best height you need to get your square to measure 12 by 12. So I'm going to do, like I said, half double crochets. So I put my slip knot on my hook, and I'm going to start right here where I've been starting each of the edging round. I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now I have 3 loops on my hook. I yarn over and pull through all 3. And that's how you join with a half double crochet. And I'm just going to do that in each stitch all the way around. And that's it. Very simple. Again, you could do, if your square is a little bit bigger than mine, you could do a single crochet at this point. And then when I get to the chain 1 space, I remove the stitch marker and I'm going to work 1 half double, chain 1, and then another half double. So whichever stitch you chose, at the chain 1 spaces, make sure you do the stitch, chain 1, and then 1 more stitch, all in that chain 1 space. And then replace the stitch marker in the chain 1 spot so that you can use it for the next round. And I will continue with the half double crochet around the entire square. Now that I've gone all the way around with round 4, I'm going to fasten off. And here's one way that you can do it without having to show your slip stitch join. My last stitch, I cut the yarn and pull the yarn through. And then I'm going to put this yarn tail onto a yarn needle. And now I'm going to replicate the actual stitches themselves. So I'm going to take this yarn and go through the first stitch that I made, and I'll go under both loops and back around, and then I'll take the yarn needle and go down through the middle of that last stitch. And by doing so, it joins the first stitch and the last stitch with something that mimics the V of the stitch. And then I like to, since it's on the back of my project, I like to use the other yarn tail to tie a nice knot. And there you can't tell where I began. So that's just a little trick for how to join them. So for my last round, I'm going to do slip stitch. Back it up a little bit here. And I want to use the dark purple. So I'm going to put my slip knot on my hook. And I can join anywhere, but I kept marking the chain 1 spaces in each corner with the stitch marker. And I'm going to work in the back loop only. And I'm going to insert my hook into the back loop, then yarn over, pull through the stitch and through the loop on my hook. And that's a slip stitch. And I'm going to work a slip stitch in each stitch all the way around. And when I get to the corners, I'm going to do slip stitch, chain one, slip stitch. In keeping with every time I get to the chain one stitch at a corner, I do the stitch, chain one, stitch. And this will make a nice solid border, but it won't add a lot of space. It won't add inches really to my project, but it'll give a nice finished edge with the darker color on the outside. I've completed my last round of edging, and here's my last stitch. I pull the yarn tail through, and I'll do the same technique that I did in round 4. Put the yarn tail on my needle, and this is a little darker, well, it's a lot darker, so it's harder to see, but you're going to put your needle under the loops of the previous or the first slip stitch of the round, and then you're going to go down through the last stitch of the round and snug that up like so. And then, like I showed you before, I like to tie a knot with those last 2 yarn tails, and you have that nice clean edge there where it's hard to see where you started and where you ended. Now there's just one more step left to do. After I've finished all of the crocheting, I'm going to turn my square over and weave in all these ends. But what I like to do is while I weave them in, I'm also going to join different parts of the cords. So here's where some of the cord ends meet, but you see there's this little gap here and there's some little movement here. So we wanted that for when we were adding the edging, but now I want to secure that. So I'm just using the tails, so I'm doing 2 jobs at once here. I'm sewing up some of these gaps, just like this. Just sew across, put my hook, my needle through where the cords meet, making sure it stays on the back side, just going through some of the loops on the wrong side here of the cords, and that'll help my project and my square to be more stable. So this section over here, I'm going to do the same thing, and I'll work my way around, but at the same time I'm weaving in my ends. So you don't have to weave in ends and sew the cords. Do both jobs at the same time and you'll save time and your project will look great. So once they're all woven in, your square is going to look like that. So this is the wrong side with all of the yarn tails woven in, and you could see all the gaps I sewed here, so I have a nice secure square. And here's my completed square in the different purples, the dark purple, the light purple, and then the eggshell. And when you use the cords with one main color, the knot has a way of looking a lot more complicated. So I did it in 4 different colors here for you to help you understand how the knot worked. And you can do it that way as well, but if you'd like it to look even more complicated, all one color. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed making your Celtic Blanket Square. Don't forget to click subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and make sure to watch the next Celtic Knot Crochet tutorial. Happy crocheting!